Steve. Oh, there he is. Hey guys, it's Steve. Just wanted to cover. Let me get this thing off the screen for now. We'll talk about where we're at. Sorry, it took me a while to get. This week was crazy. I was down in Florida at a self-storage training conference, and I forgot to tell everybody that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then yesterday because the flights were fucked up. I wasn't even awake. I mean, I was awake, but I wasn't coherent enough to think about what to talk about. So wanted to kind of catch up on a lot of different things that are going on. One of which is different ways to, um, one of which is sort of a systems analysis situation. We are working to improve the AI tool for pre-deal analysis. And also we're going to change, and this might take a couple weeks, but we're going to change how deals are submitted. This isn't, hey, don't send Steve a note and say, here's what I got, take a quick look at it. But outside of this immediate group, I'm trying to refine that because if we don't have the details for me to really make an intelligent input, it doesn't really help. So I guess what I'm saying, and I've said this a couple times before, is I don't mind you saying, hey, before I give this guy an answer, what do you think of the deal? But in order for me to think of the deal, you got to give me enough to think of the deal. You got to have given me Fastly, say, or PropStream or StreamYard or StreamYard, whatever. What do the software say? What does the market comp at? What does the AI say about it? What is it? Give me the Zillow link. Give me this link. You got to give me enough to go on. And so we'll be rolling out an AI that's going to sort of make sure we have that before we get there. Simply because it's a matter of, is it inefficient for you to go deeper? I can't tell you that if I don't have enough to know about the market. And another thing in there is, guys, when you're sending me, hey, what do you think of this? And I come back to you with my answer and you're like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Don't hold back what you're thinking. Don't hold back, well, yeah, he also told me that and I didn't write that. I didn't share that with you. It's inefficient for both of us. And I'm not saying anyway, a couple of people have done this who frankly are no longer with us in the company. Not that I kicked them out, but because they moved on. But the bottom line is, if you think something like part of it, we're going to start asking opinion questions. What do you think of the market? What do you think the Google links look like? Da, da, da. The more you tell us where you're thinking, it does two things for us. The first thing it does is it gives us information, because you might be like, well, I happen to know that town, it's a shithole. Or, I looked and saw that there was a strip club next door, or whatever. Or you might have information that the seller shares. So it really comes down to, I'm doing a bad job of explaining, I'm still exhausted, but it really comes down to, we're going to be streamlining our process, and an AI is going to be analyzing the submissions to make sure we have everything we need to act on. So it's not like you can't just send me a quick text message, hey, I'm talking to this guy. And if it's hot, remember, this is not you're on the phone with them and you want to fold me into the call, do that. This is not you want to have me on your initial calls because you're not comfortable making calls, do that. I know our team, our core guys are good at it. You guys, Nair, Alex, Connor, Will, great. You guys can fly those first calls alone. But this is not don't fold me in. But it's more a matter of, before we start analyzing, we make sure we have everything. We also are opening up a couple other, and again, guys, I don't want to stress this enough. When I say we're opening up a couple other avenues, it is not go try these also. We have a crap load of residential cold calling to make, and people aren't really loving it, and it's boring as hell, but that's still a core sector. Residential and small multifamily cold calling is a core sector. But for example, Nair is loving the self-storage conversations. Great, focus there. You guys will find your focus. Will is loving the developer conversations. Great. Commercial can take longer, but you go where you're comfortable. At the end of the day, and I learned this way too late in life, every job sucks. So do the one that you're going to enjoy it even when it sucks. If you don't enjoy, like personally I don't, talking to Joe Smith that owns a 4-bedroom house in Nanticoke, Ryan, thank you. don't do it. I mean, don't do it, but look to grow beyond it. But the core business of wholesaling real estate, which also means there's a bunch of other competitors, is in residential. Now, this lesson applied to the self storage universe, I learned of a whole nother type of self storage. So, in self storage, there's, everyone knows the buildings, climate controlled, non climate controlled, the drive ups, whatever. And you think, okay, outdoor self storage. So, everyone thinks cars, boats, RVs, campers, trailers. Okay, that's great. And as far as I understood it, that was self storage, that was the universe. Well, this guy presented at the conference, and he does a whole nother thing, which is more of an industrial model that wasn't until he came up with this idea. He may have actually invented it, as far as I can tell, of an industrial open dirt self storage model that, I'm like, holy crap, now I have a whole nother, angle. And my partner and I were talking, it's like, well, do we want to give up on the regular self storage? No. But just like everyone is wholesaling one single family and double houses, that's where the buyers are. That's also where most of the sellers are. But that's also where most of the competition is. And competition isn't bad, it's just there. Same thing in self storage. Somebody posts, I have a self storage facility for sale, and 4,000 people give their emails. And I mean, I could literally from morning to night do nothing but run broker deals. Like I'm building an AI to do that because there's just so many of them. But we move to this industrial outdoor self storage, and there's less competition. So that's what I'm saying is find your niche, move your niche around, but focus and change it up because life can get boring. But also structure your time to learn about other niches and to say, hey, listen, maybe I want to do 80% residential and 20% self storage, or 20/80 or whatever. So you can kind of mix up your life a little bit. And understand the bell curve, and I guess I'm saying this really badly, 'cause I'm not quite making sense, but the bell curve is where the most opportunity is. Residential, single through 4 unit, homes is also where most of the competition is. So sometimes you actually benefit by moving a niche over or spending some of your time a niche over. Also, getting licensed. Guys, I know a lot of you have been working for a year, 2 years, and frankly, at a certain point, your license education no longer applies. So it's not like, oh, I started my education in 2020 and it still applies. Not really. It does expire. The state says education that's too old, you end up starting over, number one. Number two is you don't really gain a lot by waiting to a large standpoint. And Alex, I see you're out there, and I don't know, like you say, it says device not connected for me. So I don't know if you're hearing this or not. I can't quite tell what's going on. But anyway, and this is what happens every time. Like I've got Nair on here, so I know we're getting out to the world, and I've got somebody else on here. I think it's Glenn. It just says user. But I see Alex, but it says device not connected, so I don't know. You can always watch on the YouTube. So anyway, so that's the first thing, is that use these other niches not to distract. The second thing is we do have skip trace software. And in fact, actually, Ryan, I'm going to text Ryan in a minute to do the, just text Ryan real quick. All right, so we have two skip trace softwares. One that one that I just asked Ryan for the login for, and the other one I'm having trouble with the company. They have to fix something on their end. That's the Forewarn one that I gave you, Alex. We have a list from another wholesaler of pre-foreclosures. Getting data is not a problem. We need people to call the data, not to, getting the data. You can get your own data, great, but that's not where we core need it. Where we core need it is people calling the data that we have. So don't feel like you have to go looking for data. We have the data. You just need to call the data. And I'm just checking something else on the data to see if we have any interesting responses. Not so much. Okay. Other ways, and I'm just covering this as well, other ways that you can make money is finding us people. You bring someone in, you make a piece of what they make. But right now, calling, and guys, calling, emailing, texting, reaching out, that is the number one part of the job. Now, I want to cover a couple deals that we looked at and why they win and why they don't. I'm looking up here. Okay. So a guy contacted, you're going to actually activate the screenshot. Let me activate that, stage. Guy contacted us for a house in Nanticoke. And okay, no location. So we ran comps on the neighborhood, and we said, okay, and this is what we ran into bluntly, is we ran into similar sized houses. One sold for 175, one sold for 90. And the pictures weren't that different. These are not his house, this is neighboring houses. But that's the 90,000 house. And then 175 is better, but not, oh my God, better. For 175, there's still a clawfoot tub. So it's a very hard neighborhood to know what the comps will be. What am I going to get when I dip the house in gold? So when we were running the numbers, and this is a mathematical thing, when we were running the numbers, we said, okay, we're going to sell for 175, minus, I want to be at 50. And Ryan spent an hour on the phone, and he and I collectively spent an hour on the phone. So this guy's way into our time. Way longer than you want it to be, but some calls go fast, some calls go, well, let me tell you about my sciatica and my arthritis. So we're 2 hours in to maybe get him to sign the contract. And it's very difficult to do comps when two fairly similar houses are that different in price. Now, the beautiful thing is they're both above what we expect to get the contract signed for. And the unique thing, and this is back to the being licensed thing, guys, is getting licensed not only makes it the fact that you're legal, but it gives you more options to talk about. It gives you more opportunities, especially because you guys are all across the state. Am I going to take a listing in Pittsburgh if I don't have someone in Pittsburgh who can actually be the feet on the ground? I don't know, because without the feet on the ground, then I have to say, okay, who's my guy that shows up to meet with the seller? Who's my guy that shows up to meet with the buyers? So having you guys as licensed is going to help all of us, but also having you guys get licensed. Eventually, the state's going to randomly pick someone to come after. So there's that, and it just gives you more versatility. We could talk to this gentleman. He didn't like our offer of 50,000, so we started talking about all this thing at 140. Then he told me he's got a timeline issue of sorry to talk about this deal, Ryan. If you're listening, we should talk about sub 2 for him. Sub 2 with cash up front. Get this thing over with. Sorry, my brain just switched. So being licensed gives you more tools. Now, for those of you, Alex, who want to work in other communities, that's great. No problem whatsoever. Whether a license applies depends on where. Jersey doesn't care about unlicensed wholesalers yet. Every state within the next 10 years will pass an unlicensed wholesaler law. I guarantee it. And it might not take 10 years. So eventually licensing becomes an issue everywhere. But the important thing on location is pick a couple and stick with them. Like Alex has decided, and this works out fine. No pressure, Alex. I just have to get you a better skip trace tool. Is know your location. And that's kind of really where I'm going now is knowing your location. Knowing about the communities you're working in is key. And here's really why it's important. Because in the self-storage community, in the mobile home park community, in the commercial communities, it's very data-based and very numbers-based. In a residential setting, it's very what's the town like based, because you're dealing with people where people are going to live. In self-storage, as I'll stay with that, is there's 2 or 3 sources that I can go to and pull down almost everything I would need to know about competitors, rates, rate trends, blah, 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 density of population, number of square feet per person available, and all the facts I'm going to need to present. And really knowing about in market growth and population growth and income growth, it's all pretty readily available. And whether or not, things like crime matter, but things like school district don't, for example. In residential, things like, multifamily, whatever, things like school district matter. Things like, Baltimore is my famous example. A friend of mine used to do a lot in Baltimore, like absurdly a lot. And it was literally, okay, well, this street in Baltimore, numbers 1 through 200 are fine. Numbers 200 through 400, you get shot, and the numbers 400 through 600 are millionaire houses again. So it's not, oh, gee, I'm owning Main Street, Baltimore. It's where on Main Street. And that's when knowing the community matters. So if you're responding to, I'm working Nashville today, I'm working Oklahoma City tomorrow, I'm working New Jersey the next day, you're not going to learn enough about the market. So knowing about your market is important. So when I'm saying mix it up is okay, it is, but whatever. Now, what we ended up doing, and I'm going to turn this back on again now, is in the residential one, we spent a long time with this guy because he felt he was playing poker and wanted to hold his cards close. And I finally just kind of lost it on him. He's like, well, if you want me to list, you go to less than 6 month listing. I just snapped. I'm like, no. So, sir, we've been on this for an hour. Let me cut to the chase. Number one, you want me to be a listing broker and you want the most money? I will not go under 6 months. Not going to happen. Most brokers go for a year. You want a cash offer? I'll give you, you'll know in 4 weeks whether or not we're buying it. And we're going to be more like this. Listing price, fine. And, my sciatica, my this, my that, every other conversation. But I know his town like the back of my hand. I used to own stuff down in his town. We talked about the code officer, talked about this. So we'd already built the rapport, and finally I just had to draw the line with him and say, listen, here's where we're at. And that's not the conversation you guys have. You guys are the data collectors. You bring it back, you run it through us. But it's also very much an art form, because we have this property a little bit below this price, a lot below that price. Somewhere in between is the truth. In the self-storage model, Nair and I had a great conversation. Again, took a long time because this old guy owns the property and stories, but his stories were all about the business and the town and what happened with the facility. I will listen to that, and you want to listen to their stories, because in both cases we got the owners to know and like and trust us. One, because we listened to his crap about his story about his sciatica. I'm not putting him down. He's an Army vet. He served our country, whatever. Wonderful. But in the second case, it was getting to know their stories. In both cases, they like us, they trust us. The self-storage guy won't work with us, but the other guy will. So your relationship with them is key. The self-storage guys will work with us if he decides to come down to our universe of price. But it wasn't, you guys are being assholes and I think you're lying to me. It was, oh, I see from your side, my numbers don't work. Well, from my side, I don't want to sell it for your price. But I love talking to you guys. If I do decide to sell, I'll call you back. That's the sentence you want to hear when there's a no. And you almost never hear it, but that's the impression you want to leave. So within the universe of what you guys are looking for, finding the end buyer is the key, or the end seller rather, is the key, not the seller. And this is the discussion I've had with Alex and a couple of people. Wholesalers love to talk like they're the owner. And you have to ask the question a few different ways, because if you're talking to a wholesaler, that's fine. We might be able to do something, but the conversation is very different, because he's not going to let you touch the seller. So, hey, I'm the seller. Are you the owner? Yeah, I'm in charge. Are you the one on the deed? Get to that point. Get through all of it. Now, I've covered a lot of that a lot of times before. Now, switching to what's coming down the pike. We have all the data you want nationally for self-storage, Pennsylvania-based, Luzerne County especially, nationally for self-storage, nationally through batch leads for residential anywhere. Northeast PA, Luzerne County, we have unlimited things to call. Please use the data. We spent a lot for it. I live in Luzerne County. I'll be able to, we'll know in 5 seconds. And yes, it's a lot of, I'm not interested. But even them, build a relationship like we did with this self-storage guy in Alabama. Build a relationship that they'll call you and you'll be able to call them again. The guy in Nanticoke, I almost flipped and just ended the relationship because we weren't getting anywhere. But we were able to save it. Ryan saved it. It worked out well. Okay, so the other reason to, somebody just beeped. Hey, Alex. Let me see if I can add you in again. It's still reading you as not here. I don't know. All right, so please, the last thing to cover for today, and if anybody has any questions, jump in now, before I jump into something else. Nair, Will, anybody get any questions?
Well, no, not right now. It's pretty straightforward and solid, you know.
And listen, if you guys have ideas of other things to market, other ways to market, and that was the other thing I wanted to cover, is we are mailing out a lot of postcards. About 4,800 probably in the next couple of weeks. New data, new everything. Primarily Luzerne County. We're just going to blanket the county at this point. You want to be in on the inbound calls on that data? Great, because when people call up, then we can refer them out and whatever. But I want to talk a little bit about, and I know I bring this up every time, but it's the mistake everyone keeps making. If they're already advertised, Facebook, Craigslist, whatever, there probably isn't a play for you here. Because the world's already seen the house. And I'll tell you a story of one where it went differently. This is one of the rare cases. Woman called Ryan's We Buy Houses, which Ryan's been spending a huge amount of time. I appreciate Ryan on SEO and retweaking and rejiggering our website. She called up and let's talk We Buy Houses. And he said, are you listed? She said, yes, I am. He said, can't talk to you. You're listed. She literally got off the phone with him, and I felt like it was like immediate, and then texted him back and said, here's a copy of my cancellation letter or whatever. I canceled with my realtor. Now can we talk? Which is never what we advise people to do. You know, we advise people that, listen, if you're with an agent and you're willing to sell it for less, you know, we say, okay, let me say, we almost never have this conversation, but I would never, if somebody asked me, should I cancel with my realtor? My answer would be no, just drop your price on with your realtor. Do I want the business? Yeah, but whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game of price. But she did. She canceled. She sent us a copy of the email cancellation. She sent a copy of the realtor acknowledging the cancellation. So then we called her up and we're like, you know, you were listed for 45. You know, we're thinking 15. She's like, well, I'm thinking 25. All right, let's do 20. Let's see what happens at 20. Great. So this thing was listed and promoted. We had to come in at a number where, and she's like, well, what about 30? I said, listen, 30 I can't do. She's like, why? I said, well, number one, you've already been listed at 40, 45. And so you've already seen offers that weren't 30. I mean, they weren't 40. They were probably closer to 30 or 20. And she's like, well, I actually haven't seen any offers. I said, well, that's even more dangerous for me. Because once I buy your house, I pay 30 for your house, and I find out the world wants it for 25. What do? Come back to you and get money back? So I said, listen, we want 15. We'll go to 20, and hopefully we can get it to 20. But it's one of the rare times something was already advertised, and we didn't see it on the ad. To be clear, Ryan got a call from her. It wasn't like Ryan said, "Oh, this is listed. Let's call it." We didn't see it on the ad, but that's one of the rare times where something that was already advertised became a doable deal. Now, while I'm thinking of it, the other connection for you guys is there's no reason why you don't want to look at listings in your target area and reach out to the brokers and say, listen, and do we do the research? We have the analysis, we have the conversation. So you reach out to the broker and say, listen, you know, how long has this thing been on the market? What can you tell me about? Is this seller motivated? And what you're looking for, have a conversation with the broker. Hey, listen, send me your listings that are 60 to 90 days or longer on the market. That's what you're looking for when you talk to a broker. Things they're having trouble selling. Again, another reason to get licensed is you get access, you can pay for access to the MLS. You're not licensed, you can't have access. Right? So when you're talking to the broker, you want things to be on the market for a long time. And if you're even on Zillow, if you're just looking at listed things, somewhere on the Zillow page, for example, and I'll do this right now, it will tell you where is the date listed. I'm looking for an empty. Oh, I got to turn on the screen. Oh, the screen's on. Okay, never mind. So here's Zillow. Anytime you get an address, and of course, the time I pull up my own property that used to be up as Zillow, it's been removed. Of freaking course. There we go. This one. On here, it's pending. It will say listed by Stephen Franco. Listing updated June 9th of 2025. I don't think it was actually that recently that I did it. But basically, this is how long the thing's been on the market. At least. In this case, it was updated. It might just say listed by Stephen Franco this date. The point is, you can tell from Zillow or other sources how long something's been on the market. You might even be able to search Zillow. I don't know if listing time is one of those search criteria. Short comments, commute time, days on Zillow. Boom. You can search. Things have been on Zillow for 6 months. Apply. All right. Things on Zillow for over 90 days. And you can contact these brokers. We are not trying to go around to the sellers. You're not going to contact the brokers right away. And of course, it didn't actually do a very good search. But welcome to Zillow. The point is, if something's been on the market for a long time, the seller might be more motivated. You can also, within PropStream and batch leads and other things, you can research their loan situation. You can also search pre-foreclosure listings at your courthouse. What I'm saying here is we're looking for things. If you're looking for things that are advertised, you want things that have been advertised for a long time. You want sellers that are tired of waiting for a sale because they have to be looking at, there has to be a reason for them to take a discount. I still say if it's advertised, it's rarely worth the effort. However, sometimes it is. And this is why, as we refine the AI, we'll be able to respond quicker to these ones that are like, is it worth the effort? Like eventually the AI is going to allow us, hopefully by the summer, to look at one of these listings, run it, immediately send an email back to the broker that my system will already build for you. That'll say, hey, notice this property was on the market for this period of time. I'm a cash buyer and I'd be looking at a price around this. If your seller is open to having a conversation, please let us know. And it's kind of like I align it to bar dating in your 20s. And girls, ladies, you may not understand this, but the guys certainly do. You go to a bar, you're going to get 50 drinks thrown in your face, but one girl might take you home. Doing things like that, you're going to get 50 no's for every, let's have a conversation about it. And that's what most of this game is. So what I'm getting at is if you do want to go after listed properties, you're going after listed properties that have been listed for a long time. If they just got on the market, they're not going to negotiate. Now, if you find a listed property that's priced right, fine. So working with realtors is a possibility. However, working with realtors in a state that requires licensing for wholesaling, if you're not licensed, you better say something like, hi, I'm calling on behalf of Steve Franco. You don't have to do that to buy the property, but you just have to realize the agent's going to be looking. So basically what I'm saying is licensing is important. I'm pushing licensing a lot more than I used to. Not kicking anybody out who doesn't want to do it. I'm just saying it's going to make your life easier. The last opportunity zone, I guess. And again, I think the best opportunity zone, and I will say it again, cold calling. Cold calling, cold calling, cold calling. Cold calling residential, cold calling multifamily. Driving for dollars. Getting in front of sellers. Talking to management companies. Another avenue entirely to go after marketing for residential properties is talk to management companies. I mean, property management companies, and say, hey, I'm a cash buyer. I've got cash buyers for multifamily, for single family, for rental property. Have you got clients that want out? Blah, 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 blah. Let's have a conversation. Now, these property management companies, if they're legit, are licensed. Pennsylvania, you have to be licensed to do property management. But you're having that conversation. You're saying, listen, we're buyers of multifamily and investment properties. You get somebody looking to sell, call us. Listed or not, we're not even asking that question. We're saying, you get somebody who wants to sell, call us. You can have conversations with real estate agents. Hey, listen, you got anything? Can you start sending me the expired listing properties? Your expireds or any expireds on the market. I'm not a member of your board. I'm not a member of your MLS. I want to start buying out there. whatever. Can you send me the expireds? And if I can make a deal, great. Yes, I work with a broker, blah, blah, blah. These are ways that you can get more leads. Not that I'm already feeding you more leads than you can call. Really, guys, though, every time, and Ryan and I are literally having conversations like, okay, the big picture stuff of let's talk to brokers, let's talk to this. It's fun and easy. And it feels like effort, it feels like value, and it is value. But there's really no transaction that happens until you're talking to a seller. So cold calling sucks, but do it. Driving for dollars sucks, but do it. Get on the phone with sellers, but do it. When you're talking to brokers, make it efficient. When you're talking to wholesalers, make it efficient. Wholesalers are going to be tougher. But boom, 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 boom. Make it happen, make it fast, make it easy, make it efficient. Your goal is to get properties under contract. Your goal is to get us deals. And the last thing is, I don't want you throwing away any deal at all without talking to us. However, it's like if you're pulling together data and you're like, listen, the seller wants 500 and every version that I can see it's worth 250. Let me know that. And eventually the AI will help you with that as well. Actually, the AI we have now does. But we're making it better. Because there is a certain point at which it isn't worth the effort. For example, with this guy in Alabama, the only reason we kept the guy in Alabama, he wanted 150 more than we could go. So we had a fairly long conversation yesterday, got lots of detail, lots of information, probably longer than any of us wanted to be there, including him. But it was really efficient because then I came back to him today and I'm like, listen, you want 500. I'm going to be between the upper threes and the lower fours. Are we even in the same universe? I was pretty much that blunt. And he's like, no, you know what? At that universe, I'd rather just keep it. Okay, great. Given that, there's only two ways I can work with you. One is have a nice day and call us if you change your mind. And two is give me a contract to let me market it at your price for a few weeks and see if I can find you a buyer. That's it. You know what? Kind of not interested. Love talking to you. You've been great. If I decide to sell, I'll call you. It's exactly what he said. And I told Nair, I said, we check back with him every 6 months. You know, whatever, every not every month, but every periodically. And it's not a hey, are you ready yet? My God, is this guy will never be ready. He has no reason to be ready. It's a hey, we're still out here. You know, any reason to talk? No, it's okay. I'm still good. All right, fine. That's great. And he so by collecting the right information, I can make a quick decision. We can respond to the guy quickly and go from there. My biggest challenge where I get stuck in the weeds is too much partial information. Hey, here's an address. What do you think about it? Oh, here's the research you did. Oh, yeah, that aligns perfectly. And I've had this conversation more than once with more than one of my team members. Here's an address and here's some basic information. I go and do all the research, which is bluntly what that person should have done. And I call them up and they say, yeah, that's exactly the research I did. And that's not the way I need this to be. Not efficient for either one of us. Send me everything. All I'm doing is double checking your research and verifying and bringing experience to it and expanding it. And then we're ready to go. So the more complete we can be, the better. And the last thing is, why is Port Boulevard? The reason this is up on your screen. Guy posted, he's actually my next call. Guy posted a self-storage, a RV community with a small storage building on the property in Port Boulevard. So I'm looking at it. Numbers aren't horrible. We might have a deal. Ran the flood zone. See if the flood zone's still up here. Yeah, that's his flood zone. Blue is bad. It looks like he's underwater because he is. He's a peninsula pointing out in the Gulf of Mexico. Sorry, guys, it's the Gulf of Mexico. U.S. doesn't have the right to rename it. I'm not being political, but whatever. That's a bad flood zone, which, not surprisingly, he's on a peninsula pointing to the Gulf of Mexico. But this is important information. Now, even with this, I still might buy the place. But all that information is part of the equation. Why is this interesting? This property is interesting because it has monthly long-term leases on many of the RV spots and has for years. So probably there's a consistent demand for that income. There's someone renting the building for commercial use who has an interest to stay for longer. So there's a monthly income. It's about the numbers, silly. Now the guy wants $650 for it. I'm going to come in at like 4.5. So now that I've collected the information, I've run the numbers, I get back to them and say, listen, here's the math. The spreadsheet says X. Boom. I can be here. Is that interesting? No. All right, great. If you want to be there, let me be your broker and let me market it. No. Okay, great. You know what? We're friends. Good luck. Let us know if we can help you. Boom. And we've given him at that point, when we walk away, I sent him the entire package. Here's all the research we did. The next person you talk to, you can just share them this package. And they know it. So normally I wouldn't look at an RV park. I don't understand the market. I don't, whatever. But the numbers still work. And the numbers are what matter. So that's kind of, I didn't really have a plan for today because it's not our usual training day. If you have any questions, reach out. Otherwise, anybody have anything else before I sign off?
No, I'm all good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Reach out if you got something. We'll talk later.
Okay, we'll do.
Bye-bye.